This is Judge Joe Brown, and I want you to check out Dip TV.
But you is a superstar, Judge Joe Brown. You are the man. Like, you just don't know. My grandma love you. Everybody love you. All right, so if y'all not familiar with the face, you've been on a big rock. I got Judge Joe Brown on Dip TV. Mr. Judge Joe Brown, I keep saying the miss because that's how I'm just respectful. I just want to thank you for coming to my show. Like, I really appreciate this. It's like a real honor.
I'm here. I'm with the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I like the people. So many other folk, they don't work with the people too well.
I said they kind of scared of the people. They running from the people.
They sit down at the Peabody and they sip Chablis with a pinky stuck out, waiting for the ducks to walk across the carpet. And Jamal, have you heard? I don't know, Sean.
Sipping tea around here, Jay. So you say.
Chablis.
So, Mr.
White wine.
Oh, that sound pretty good right there.
Well, you know,
Judge Joe Brown.
Cheese and crackers. That's the way they don't roll.
Yes, sir. So before I get into anything, Judge Joe Brown, I just want to get a little background on you for my audience, for the people who don't know you or whatever, or been up on the rock, like I said. So could you tell these folks where you come from?
Okay, I've been in Memphis for 50 years. I wasn't born here, but I chose to be here as a young grown man. So that's a half century. Yeah, literally this year. So before that, I grew up in Los Angeles. Okay. Later, where I grew up became known as South Central, L.A. So if you know something about L.A., I went to Bud Long Avenue Elementary School, John Muir Junior High, and then Manual Arts briefly, and then Dorsey High. That was before they came up with Crenshaw High.
Wow.
Went to UCLA as an undergrad. Played a little football out there, went to UCLA Law School. In the meantime, I was a substitute teacher in the LA City school system for junior high and high school, and I also was a co-playground director with two other distinguished young brothers, Ron Chappelle, who was a hell of a martial artist. He's Dr. Chappelle now, and Clifford Stewart, the Black Belt magazine for 15 years, called the most dangerous human alive in North America. And he's passed on, Dr. Stewart.
Okay.
He had an operation from some injuries he was still suffering from doing what he did, aside from being co-executive producer on my show. So we ran a place called Trinity Avenue Elementary School. You've heard of two of our students that we worked with. One, you've heard of him because he could sing, the late singer Barry White.
Oh, wow.
He was a skinny 12-year-old on the playground, and the other one was a 14-year-old volunteer.
Wow.
Who unfortunately was the last person executed in California. That was Tookie Williams. He'd still talk to us from time to time, called us coach, but he co-founded the LA Crips. So, well, he had a lot to do with it.
Most definitely.
So we couldn't get him out of the swamp. He just became the baddest alligator in the swamp.
Wow.
White, his mama was cooperative, and he got out of the swamp. But we did a lot of things, and it showed, in my mind, way back when, what some young men could do if they were dedicated to the proposition of manhood and took care of their business and organized a community.
Yes, sir.
Trinity probably is in one of the worst neighborhoods that's still somewhat black in L.A.
Yes,
Always was. Had a whole bunch of gangsters and stuff, and I don't mean just street gangs. I mean lifetime professional robbing banks and stuff like that kind of thing, running numbers, rackets, and that sort. But then I came to Tennessee. And I worked with legal services here. There's poverty law, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. became the first black prosecutor for the city.
That's dope.
And then I ran the public defender's office as the chief public defender, and that was back in the 70s. And then I went into private practice with Ural B. Adams and then Ruby Wharton. Then Ural died behind some mess dealing with drug trafficking, and that got real exciting. A whole bunch of people died on that. Then I did a lot of criminal defense work. One time I got the youngest person in the world on a death row off of death row. Got a stay of execution 23 minutes before they were going to execute him. He was 15 years, 2 weeks old at that time.
15 years old? They were going to execute him?
Yeah. It was supposedly for murdering 3 people when he was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it made a lot of headlines around the world.
Yes, sir.
Here's what, about 50 grand out of my own pocket to defend that boy. Now,
that's real.
Then I trained the public defender's capital defense team. So I wound up trying as a defense lawyer 42 first-degree murder cases, death penalty demanded.
Wow.
Nobody I was involved with wound up on death row. So anyway.
Right.
Then 1990 I got elected to criminal court. I got asked to run for that. I did. I won, and I started to use the power of the bench to play village chieftain or be village chieftain.
Can I
have to have law and order, but people have to go to work. People have to understand how to work. People have to be motivated. So I implemented man training.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You look in the mirror every morning and you say, hey man, did you do what you were supposed to do yesterday? You're going to man up even more so today so you can do it better tomorrow. And instead of wandering around, man, I ain't got no daylight at the end of my tunnel, man. I'm already dead. Well, if you're already dead, then you can be a hero and you can get those folk that you should have an obligation to through the smoke and flames and kill off the fire-breathing Gila monsters that are making the flames and get to the end of the tunnel even if you can't personally see the daylight.
Most definitely.
So that means you have a cause and you have a purpose and you're motivated to take on adversity.
Yes,
and
sir.
adversity is a bitch, but I mean, we used to deal with it when it was called Simba. And 13-year-old boys have to go kill Simba with a spear without even an iron or steel head to it to show they're worthy of getting further man training.
Gotcha.
So we can handle adversity. It makes you sleep well. And like people have seen when folk come up to me all the time and they say, Judge, you remember me? Dude got all kinds of gray in his hair. No, I don't remember you. I was in your courtroom. Yeah. You gave me some time. Did I give you enough? Yeah, but see, it was that thing about manhood, and you let me peep the game that was being done to me. And what's the game? See, this system wants you to act like a crook because it cannot function unless you do. One thing, there are not enough jobs to go around.
Most definitely.
And labor is like any other kind of commodity. Wheat, corn, cotton, rye, beef, pork, poultry. When you have a glut, the price drops. And the price, in this case, is the working wage. And when it drops too far, you get clowns like Timothy McVeigh who buy $200 worth of fertilizer and blow up a courthouse in Oklahoma City. So that said, they don't want Timothy McVeigh, so they do the same thing they do for any other commodity. When there's a glut, 1, you cut back production. 2, you store the surplus. 3, you, 2, you subsidize the would-be producer for not producing it.
Oh, dear.
And then you store the surplus. Well, the surplus is put in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. The jail is a labor warehouse. And the subsidy is the assistance check, and the cutting back of production is when the kids get stuck on stupid and they wind up drugging out, banging out, getting knocked up too early, too often, developing inappropriate attitudes, outlooks, approaches to life, way of carrying themselves, how they're dressing. They don't have any vocational skills. They don't have any educational foundation. They turn their neighborhoods into islands of chaos, and the neighborhood cannot engage in cohesive political activity for self-help. And they scare the hell out of the ordinary folk who go, oh my God, somebody may rip me off walking from my front door to my carport, so they don't think about how they're getting ripped off economically. They worry about somebody jacking them. And the other thing is, see, we're the only industrialized country in the world that does not have some coherent program to deal with the typical worker being made obsolete by industrial technology and computerization. And no, by the way, they don't want you locked up for your free labor. What that's all about is idle minds mischief make. They want to keep you occupied so you don't get too unruly off in the joints. See, that's what that's all about.
So I gotta ask you, Mr. JoJo Brown, with the city, like everybody, everybody love the city, but I gotta ask you about the crime in the city, like what you just talked about, like with all these kids not having nothing to do, so they find the other outlets. They find the other outlets to get into. I just want to ask you, like, what you think about the crime in the city, and like, what could we do better?
You need to give the kids a purpose and a cause, and you need to train them. See, there's no manhood in the hood, or at least not enough of it.
No, it ain't. It ain't.
And you see, all of the people that we've been getting elected, they want to do stuff like girl the boys out. Give you an example. For the last 50 years, they've had to take your daughter to work week. You ever heard of take your son to work week?
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't.
No, sir.
Always some program to train the women to run corporations and deal with politics. They don't have anything for the boys. So what we have is, on a national level, and it's as bad here in Memphis, each year only 28% of the high school graduates are male. That's white, black, brown, red, yellow.
Wow.
This is for the last 20 years. Only 32% of the college undergraduates are male, and only 36% of the grad students are male, and only 44% of the American workforce is male. And it gets worse in our neighborhood, and you get these boys growing up in environments where there's no man imagery, man training, and they say, yo, man, I ain't gonna be flipping no buckets for no Mickey D's, man. Hell with that, man. I got me 4 hoes, take good care of me.
Right.
2 of them got good JOBs, one get a crazy check, and the other one get a EFDC, man. They take care of me. I ain't working, man.
Facts. You ain't lying, Mr. Brown.
See, and that's unmanned. See, what's going on is, if you think like that, what's happening is, examine yourself, and are you hearing your favorite 14-year-old aunt talking when you were 9 or 10, and you're ideating on that, and you ain't been around men, and you're around the ladies, and it's my girl, you know, man ain't nothing but a dog, honey, I hear you. They ain't about but one thing, take every dime they got. So what you're looking for is to get somebody the opposite sex to take care of you, and you don't want to leave your mama. But you see, our ladies, if you think like that, examine yourself. Do you want your sons to grow up okay, or do you want to be worried about where you're going to get a suit to bury him in? And then again, if you say what good's a man for, how you going to raise your son to be a man if you don't know what he's supposed to be good for?
You just said so right there. You just said so right there, JoJo Brown.
Manhood back in the hood. And also, if you're going to be a man, it's about protecting womanhood and childhood and promoting more manhood.
Most definitely.
So we have to train ourselves, and we're like that naturally. We just get it tamped down. You get real sickness going on out there.
So tell me this, Judge Joe Brown. Far as, could you get on like advice on making choices?
Okay, here's what it is. Ain't nothing gonna happen for you that's gonna last if you didn't put hard work into it.
Yes, sir.
Now, it's not coming easy, and stop worrying about the quick, easy way, because that's the hard way. You get tied up in that. Ain't take too many damn penitentiary chances and lack of preparation. You ain't doing nothing but wasting your time because you won't keep it.
Man,
and it goes poof. Now, granted, right here we have too many people that are downtown supposing to run stuff. They're stealing as bad as the street thugs are. All these young kids, just on a bigger scale, and they're more delicate and refined. So that's no example. And see, they can't come down and lead because they're scared to come down and talk to the folk. They're scared to interact with the folk. And I got a dare with all of them. I should tell you what, you follow me without an armed escort and see if you get back out either alive or without your ass getting kicked.
Facts, yes, sir.
You know, so, I mean, you're not seeing them walk down this street.
Yeah.
You know, I've lived all over Memphis. Whitehaven, North Memphis, Fraser, Raleigh, South Memphis, you name it. Been here 50 years. Some places I could have stayed, but after I got burglarized 4 or 5 times, I said, let me get out of here before I have to kill somebody.
Hey, I was finna ask you, what's your favorite part of the city that you have stayed at?
All of it can actually be pretty nice if the people work at it.
For sure.
I've stayed all over the country, but this town needs some revitalization. We need to get these potholes fixed.
Whew. A lot.
I just busted 2 tires on this Porsche out here within this month. Broke a front wheel out here. I got another vehicle. The fan shroud is jacked up from road debris. A woman was telling me that a year and a half ago she lost her son. He hit a pothole, swerved into the ongoing traffic, head on. 2 people died. So,
oh my God.
Our city managers don't seem to be concerned about that because they're too busy stealing. The Board of Education is now no longer with the city, it's with the county, and the city needs to get on the county about fraud in delivering the educational benefits it's supposed to. They've got almost a $3 billion budget, and what are we getting out of it? People don't even realize that.
Wow.
Ms. Harris resigned from the board and was alleging fraud, contracts 100,000 and under. But we're not talking about just 1 year. We may have 5 or 6 of those in a year with the same entity, and nobody's got to sign off on them. You've got an example I know well. You've got a county board of education attorney and a whole legal funded. But yet we hire a black silk stocking private firm and pay them $500 to $1,500, sometimes $3,500 an hour for routine work that you already have the city attorney's office there, not city attorneys, but the board attorney's office to work on. Why? It's just this. You've got all kinds of scams going on in this town, and it needs to stop because Memphis needs to get away from being the most corrupt large city in America. That ranged from the previous DA to too many that have been or are still on the city council, the county commission, or in the mayor's offices. This clown we've got right now, whose nickname is the Pillsbury Doughboy. Yeah.
I ain't never heard it like that, Judge Joe Brown.
That's his East Memphis nickname. He just committed $750 million to converting that football arena at the fairgrounds to a soccer stadium. That football stadium to a soccer arena. $750 million, and they're lining up $3 billion to build a new football arena. And the potholes need to be fixed.
Right.
Trash needs to be picked up. This city is filthy.
The smart, yeah, that don't make
And
no
let's
sense.
look at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water.
Robbers.
We privatized the damn thing some decades ago, and we need to look to that. But I mean, you can't take your dog out for a walk and have the dog pee on the sidewalk without MLG and W having a breakdown.
What you said. They have been horrible.
Yeah, one place I got upscale area around here. I've got a couple, one over here in North Memphis and another one way out east.
Yes, sir.
Hell, that one even. In the last 2 weeks, my power was off for 21 hours on one day, 14 on another, 4 on another one, and 3 on another day. That's ridiculous, and it hasn't even been a storm around here.
Yeah, that is that's horrible.
You got the Mississippi River down here. It flows 24/7. They have 2 channels that are 120 feet deep out there. There's no reason why this city cannot put modular hydroelectric generators like they use in Asia and Africa to generate power from tidal flows. Mm-hmm. Those you have to spend a lot of money on storage facilities, but we don't need it because the river runs 24/7. We could set up solar arrays on top of all city buildings, all reconstructions or zoning clearances. You put in a city subsidized solar farm on top. Every school building needs one of those on top. Every police precinct needs one. The fire station needs one. So we feed into a net, and we don't have to get ripped off by TVA or deal with Congressman Cohen's buddy who's trying to get in and get the contract.
No, dude.
See, we could sell the energy from New Orleans to Louisville to Chicago to Little Rock to Atlanta and all points in between. We could make money. American industry follows energy, so we could have all this heavy industry in Memphis. We used to have some of it, but then these clowns that were in charge of running the city let it all go to hell. They don't know what time it is, except they want a little under the table. Like quite a few who are interested in this mayor's race are doing up here in Mason. Now, you hear anybody talking about recruiting people from Memphis to work up there when Ford alone is going to hire 27,500 people in the next 3.5 years. Anybody talked about that? No. And then Cadillac is supposed to be moving and hiring the same amount about 35 minutes further on. But you see, the scam is, instead of letting that come to Memphis, where you have the old facilities from Firestone, International, Harvester, etc. Ford used to make truck components here and stuff like that. Our clowns are up there trying to negotiate money, and you can see what they're doing. They're selling off city property and then renting, the city is renting it back from the people they sold it to. Downtown, where the bus depot used to be, there is a parking lot now. The city sold 25 acres centered on that to a developer for just $600K. The city has committed $250 million up front to come up with 28 luxury units and some limited access boutiques for the benefit of gentrification of downtown. You see those office buildings? They're not offices in there. Those are condominiums. They have gutted those things so there are multi-floor condos in there, and you might have 5 or 6 units in one of those buildings. So right now they're talking about restricting parking, so you can't get down there. If you have cars to go downtown, you'll have to park in somebody's lot out by the fairgrounds and get transported down here. You're getting a homeless group increasing. Go down on Union sometimes and take a look when you're going down Union. And what are we doing here? We have to do better. We can do better, but you need somebody who's not in there looking at it as an opportunity to rip the public off. You're about to get a scandal, I think, that's going to come out of Shelby County with some high officials and their misappropriation of funds, quite a few tens of millions of dollars, not just a few. And by the way, I'll say this, since I will be funny about it, Wanda Halbert is not the villain in a whole lot of stuff, but some other people are, and we will find out shortly what's going on. Now, that said, we had for the longest time somebody who has been held to be the most corrupt district attorney in the entirety of the United States of America. Her name was Amy Wyrick. Is. So they hired her in an upstate county, I guess, to do more of the same. The state Supreme Court marveled that she was still possessed of a law license, and various law reviews and agencies around the country reported her as extremely corrupt.
Wow.
So we didn't have anything going there. The juvenile court was run by a corrupt character, the late Kenneth Turner, who dropped out of the 6th grade, so the highest he went in school was the 5th grade, and he was the judge from 1963 to 2006.
So how he do that? How you do that?
Well, the Supreme Court said he could not hear a case because of his educational deficiencies. So he managed to privatize the whole operation and hire all of these referees and magistrates who violate the Tennessee Constitution that says a person is entitled to have an elected judge preside over his or her case. And they've totally privatized, and they were in the business of ripping off money, and there was an account with First Tennessee, now First Horizon, where their taxpayers' money in dollars in there, it's non-interest bearing account, which is illegal, and it's tens of millions of dollars, and it's being used to finance mortgages, car loans, political campaigns, and all kinds of other wrongdoing stuff, and it needs to be looked to. Now, we have a new judge down there, the Honorable Tariq Sugarman, who's a fine gentleman. As a matter of fact, he was one of the public defenders in my courtroom over a 10-year period.
Okay.
And by the way, when you're talking about you want a private attorney, you might do better getting a public defender. In 10 years, he had 64 jury trials for serious felonies. He had 61 outright not guilty verdicts, including one particular first-degree murder that was a mistrial, so that was case 62. And he only had 2 guilty verdicts, and those were where the state was offering his client 10 years, and the jury found them guilty of a misdemeanor, which only carried 1129, and it was time served. So he had 64 victories.
Wow.
In front of jury trials.
As a public defender?
As the public defender.
He hard.
So actually the public defender's office for the most part has a better win record in this city, county than most private attorneys.
So I gotta ask this question, right? So like where I'm from, the hood or whatever, they always say don't get you no public defender because it's like a bad thing. They be like, don't get no public defender, you rather get a lawyer.
Some lawyers are good, but I'll give you a clue. The best defense lawyers are not the ones that charge the most. They do it because they're dedicated to a cause. I'll give you an example. Judge Sugarman, he was a PD in my courtroom, like I said. He and the district attorney, or the assistant, walked up, let him approach the bench. They announced that they had worked something out on this particular case. The state was going to drop the charges.
Right.
Sugarman wanted time for the client to be able to pay the cost so jeopardy would attach so somebody else couldn't bring it up later on. So while we are talking about this private lawyer who has a lot of cases, or had a lot of cases in my courtroom because he advertised, but he never tried anything and really didn't know what he was doing. He walked in and announced that the family had hired him to represent this guy. So I gave him 2 or 3 weeks. Hey, fine. So he comes back in and he announces he's worked out something with the state to plead this man out to 5 years. So I went off on it and embarrassed him, and I said, "You're pleading this man out for 5 years when the public defender has got the state to agree to drop charges. What's wrong with you?"
My.
See, that's the kind of thing people don't know. They'll jump up and run out to get somebody's card. If he's got 6 or 7 people on your docket, he's got good advertising. But he's never tried a case and wouldn't know what to do with a jury. See, that's one of the problems today is, well, I'll give you this example. Would you go see a doctor if you knew the doctor had never been an intern or done a residency in a hospital? No, you wouldn't.
No, sir.
But that's the problem with too many lawyers. We have too many of them, and they have to charge too high a fee because they don't have enough customers or clients to keep the doors open if they don't. And they don't know what they're doing, so they've never had the equivalent of being an intern or a resident. So they've been out of law school 6, 7 years. How many jury trials have you had? Zero, none. How many motions have you argued? 2. Have you had a bench trial? 1. So you've been out of law school that time. When I was coming along, people had hundreds. So, you know, you learn, you don't have to go look it up. You have memorized it. You can say, Your Honor, that's a matter of State versus Winslop. Let's see, and that was 331 Southwest 2nd at page 118. I believe that, see, you already know it because you've done it so many times.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So another thing too, don't believe everything that somebody you know is a defendant is telling you.
Yes, sir.
Yay, man, you know, me and my lawyer, man, we fixed this case, man. We had to pay off the DA, man. We had 4 kilos, man. Fool. They found a half joint in an ashtray, and I got it dismissed on the technicality, and you coming in here trying to perpetrate, man. Flossing, fool. What's wrong with you?
Flawed. We say all that flawed.
And then see, the other thing too, my son been a good boy, Your Honor. Could you please reduce the bond on him? Well, lady, he's had 37 felonies since he's been 15, and he's just 19. He's a major crime wave.
Right.
But he been a good boy. Ain't never got, what do you call this? Or, and then don't mention, you can't really talk about some of the folk because you have the attorney-client privilege. But some of the clients I had, yo, man, see, mama, I wasn't even there. See, they lying on me. They putting this case on me. I wasn't even there. So, okay, why you, okay, your mama is gone. Let's talk about this. Well, see, wait a minute, before you get off into that, there are 7 people that ID'd you. 5 of them gave the police your mama's address because all 7 went to high school with you. You know, well, see, who? I'll give him that. He lying. I know he lying. How's he lying? Because I wasn't there. What he says you were. Yeah, but I know he lying because, see, I was behind the dumpster in the shadow. He couldn't see me. He trying to light up a cigarette talking to this woman. I saw him. You standing right out in front of that liquor store. Well, wait a minute. I thought you weren't even there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I wasn't there because he couldn't see me. He lied. You know, like, oh, wait a minute.
I know you didn't hear so many of that, man. Like,
last criminal case I handled, it's been more than 30 years ago. Old friend now dead, the judge said, please take this. He's giving some of these lady public defenders grief. See if you can handle this, and if you can't, by the time they swear in, I'll let you off. So I'm talking to this fool. I'm reading the file and said, man, look, how the devil do you manage to try to hold up the Circle K broad daylight at about high noon with 5 marked squad cars parked around the place? What is wrong with you?
What you wrong?
You talking about they violated your rights? Fool, they should have whipped your behind.
You better be lucky he dead playing.
Yeah.
For real.
And then talking about the OGs sometimes. They ain't so OG. Your Honor, let's go in the back there and, not let's go to, Your Honor, we're ready for the motion to suppress. Okay, gentlemen, let's go on back to the chambers. Madam Court Reporter, can you set up in about 10 minutes? You need a break. No, sir, we're ready. Okay. I'm looking at dude out in the courtroom. He's going for bad for his homies. Yeah, man, I'm down with the cause, man. You know, I'm supposed, man, they trying to run game on me, man. I was strong, man, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
We go back there in the back, and I'm looking at the video. Young man, this is very serious. We would strongly urge you to get an attorney, or we can get one appointed if you can't afford one. They've read him his rights.
Yes, sir.
I don't want no lawyer. I just want to talk to my mama. Can you let me talk to my mama?
Nah, man.
Here, wipe your nose. Snot running all down his face. Tears running all down his eyes. He used up half a new box of Kleenex. Man, it wasn't me. It was Stomp and Little Dog and Earl and J. Ray, man. They was the one, man. They made me do it, man.
He said, J. Ray, all them.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
You go out there and you listen to, really? You know, you the OG. Okay. Yeah.